I'm Kevin Davis, and this is the Catholic Family Podcast. And I'm joined today by a very good friend, long time friend of the show, one of the first friends of the show, Father Carlos Borja, over there in Iowa. Now, Father Carlos Borja is the what is your official title, Father? I ask you this every single time, and I should know this, but what are you exactly?
Probably just an assistant rector or vice rector.
Got it. And I know you do a lot of work with the seminary over there, the Modern Day Seminary under Bishop Pivarunas in Iowa. I know when I say Iowa, people think, okay, where is that? I know people around the world are thinking, where on earth is Iowa? Is that Idaho? No, we're going to talk about Idaho here in a bit. But no, it's actually, yeah, it is also in the cornfields near Nebraska, near Omaha. So it's kind of, I would say, Father, it's pretty much connected with Omaha, but you're still, what are you, about an hour away or something?
Yeah, about 45 minutes to 45 to 50 minutes from Omaha. Yeah.
Right. And so I think what several years now, you moved the major seminary under Bishop Pivrunas from Omaha to Iowa. Is that what is that 4 or 5 years already?
I think it was 2019,
Wow.
so about 4 years, and I think it was in October of 2019 that we acquired the present day property of the seminary. So it's been really nice just being out of the city and being out in the country. We, as I've mentioned before in the past, we have about 10 acres out here. We have a pond, we have a nice area to be able to recreate, play sports with the seminarians during recreation, and just really quiet, peaceful out here. So it's definitely, it was a godsend for sure.
Well, I have to say, Father, too, that two of your seminarians are from Austria, and I spent a few days with them over the last few weeks, and they're telling me too that you're out there, which makes driving in the winter a bit of an experience. So, if anyone wants to, contribute to the seminary, it sounds like maybe give them a Jeep or
All-wheel
a
drive, all-wheel
Range Rover, something with all-wheel drive, some nice tires. It sounds like that's a very necessary because it really is. If anyone's driven in the Midwest in the middle of nowhere gets pretty dicey. And of course, you're trying to get to the big ceremonies, the big feasts, trying to get to Omaha for mass. It can be a little tricky. So we're going to talk more and more about that as we go. How you can contribute to support the seminary. But that is something that sounds like is a quite the adventure and something that I've experienced myself a little bit with my family also living out there in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, though a bit closer than you guys are. So, Father, what we wanted to talk today, we just recently had a podcast published with Bishop in Kamike in Nigeria, and we like to get updates. I've had many people request just literally, hey, what's going on? We'd like to know what's going on. How are things going? Are we growing with the CMRI or the CMD? How many seminarians? How many sisters? And I know, maybe some people are like, okay, that's not super exciting, and okay, that's fine. Maybe it's not, but it's nice, and it's nice for me too to just kind of keep track of what's going on. So, Father, I think that's what we want to do today, and maybe you can just start with telling me, what's I don't know what's new at the seminary, what's the number out there in Iowa.
Sure. So as I think the last podcast we did together, we are talking about the upcoming ordination. So I think most of your viewers are familiar and know that we had five priests ordained this past May, and so they have moved on out of the seminary and have gone to their respective assignments. But so this year at the seminary, we have 16 seminarians, and there are two that very likely will be incoming come January to join us for the second semester, in addition to the 16. But yeah, we have just from different countries. I think this year we actually have more Americans than foreigners, which most times it was pretty. I think they had the upper hand on us for a few years, but
Scary.
um, so we have, as you mentioned, seminarians from Austria. We have a seminarian from Brazil, a seminarian from Colombia, a seminarian from Poland, and the we had mentioned that we were expecting a seminarian to come from Turkey, and unfortunately, his visa to the United States got denied, so
Uh,
he was not able to come and join us for this year, and like I said, it was denied at the embassy. But nevertheless, we, like I said, do have still people from different countries, um, and yeah, but a lot of like I said, newer guys, newer seminarians that are joining us this year.
And how do you think, Father? I mean, how is the level? I mean, I know you didn't you had a few new ones last year. I mean, are you kind of moving more towards veteran seminarians and not too many new ones? I mean, how is the experience level, I suppose?
So yeah, the thing is that we have um, four that are in the upper class, so to say. They're working towards the subdiaconate. These four have they have the last of the minor orders. So their next step would be the subdiaconate, which is what they're going to be preparing for this year. So then after that, we have a handful in the class under them. So that would say, I'm trying to think here, um, probably about five in the that are underneath them. So between um, the five and the four, I would say that there's a good amount of veterans who know how things run and are actually a huge help in with the newer seminarians um, to help them out and to get them um, with the schedule and with the different classes and where they need to be at what time. So that's been very helpful having the older guys, and that's usually what happens every year. The older guys help out the newer seminarians and get them, so to say, they help them out, and then they able in turn are able to help out, um, in following years. So I think it, like I said, I think it's a good balance.
And Father, this I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but this is actually something I don't know if we've ever talked about this. What does that look like for a seminarian? What are, as we're talking about levels, I know you're saying minor orders and stuff, and I kind of know that because I lived in Omaha. I've heard these things before, but what does that mean? I mean, if a seminarian joins, let's say someone joins this year, you're saying there's two people coming in January, or let's say they come in August. What does that mean? I mean, obviously they're not jumping straight into orders because that wouldn't make sense. So what does that look like for, let's say starting with the first year seminary, moving on? And I know it's not the same for everyone, let's say generally, how does that look for a seminary moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So the um, for seminarian, his first 2 years are spent studying philosophy. Philosophy in some of the other basic classes, but the main focus is philosophy, which is obviously the handmaid of theology. But after the first 2 years, and they complete their philosophy courses, that is when they begin to take steps towards the priesthood. The first step is not an actual order, but it's just a sort of say an initiation into the clerical state, which is the clerical tonsure, and that is when they become a part of the clergy, etc. And that is, so to say, the first step towards the priesthood, and that is always after the first 2 years of philosophy are finished. And then after that, then they get into their theology courses. That's going to be their main focus. And then they start to take the minor orders. And the bishop, what he does, he tends to bestow the minor orders in pairs. So he will do um, porter and lector, and then they'll wait some time and then do exorcist and acolyte, and then wait some time, and then they will take the step towards the subdiaconate, which is the point of no return, in the aspect that they give that themselves completely to the service of God and the church, and they are bound for the rest of their life to the recitation of the divine office, to the observance of celibacy for the rest of their lives, and that is the, like I said, what we consider the point of no return. But like I said, it's they gradually reach that point, so it's not all of a sudden. They think from new guy comes, new seminarian, and then the next year they're subdeacons. No, it's like I said, it's gradual progression towards that, and it's wise how Holy Mother of the Church does that, because she knows that a young man aiming towards the priesthood would not be able to undertake all the responsibilities that are attached um, to the to to the priesthood. So gives it to the seminarian, to the aspirant towards the priesthood, gradually, little by little. And as they advance in virtue, advance in the spiritual life, they advance in their studies, and they make that progress. Like I said, that is done gradually and rightly so and wisely so by Holy Mother the Church.
And Father, when approximately do they receive their cassock and their collar? I remember that in Omaha, that you'd have, when they're on the property of the church, you'd have, of course, the seminarians walking around with a cassock and a collar, and people would drive up and say, "Hello, Father." It's like, "Oh, no, no." It's like,
Mm.
wait, actually, yeah, I'm not a priest. So is there a time specifically for that, or is it just when the bishop decides?
So the bishop decides, and it's usually within the first year. I know other
Hmm.
places may do other things, but the custom here is within the first year. The bishop will have them start wearing the cassock, just as a reminder of their commitment that they're making, and of what they represent and of who they represent. And so a seminarian would wear his cassock whenever he's on church grounds. When he's at the seminary, obviously, they would wear the the collar and the clerical cassock. And then once they're subdeacons, once they get to the point of subdeacon, then when they go off church property, their normal attire will be off property to wear the Roman collar out in public. But up until that time, only when they're on church property or seminary property, they would wear the cassock.
And I know it's kind of going off topic, Father, but I think there's a reason for that, right? That is I don't know what the word is, or ordained by the U.S. Catholic bishops, back before the Vatican II, that the diocesan priests would not wear cassocks in public. Is that correct, or why is it that you only wear a collar and not a cassock?
So yes, I mean that's one of the things I have to look back exactly if it was the Council of Baltimore here in our country, but yes, that was the custom, and the I believe the aspect of it of our country being a non-Catholic country. Obviously, in Europe, it is customary to wear the cassock in public, and that's whenever we go overseas, we follow the custom of the place that we're in and wear the cassock everywhere. But here in the United States, the custom at least is not to wear the cassock off of the church property. And if I'm not mistaken, it's mainly because of the fact that our country is a non-Catholic country.
Hmm. And Father, again, I'm just shooting from the hip here. As I told you beforehand, I don't have a plan. I'm gonna throw curveballs at you, and you hit them as they come. But something that I've seen before, and I don't even remember if it was a seminarian from Omaha or some other seminarian. Pretty much a seminarian asking for sponsorship. Pretty much someone, kind of asking, "Hey, I'm attending the seminary, or I want to attend the seminary, but I need financial aid." Pretty much because obviously they need to eat and survive and study, etc. Is that something? Again, this is kind of a tough question. I don't even know how to formulate it, but is that something that exists? And if it is, how does someone find a seminarian who needs sponsorship? I mean, like literally, how does that work? Do they contact you, or how do they do that?
So, usually what we've been doing recently is that a lot of the parishes that the seminarians are coming from will help step up in some way or another to support or provide certain items that are necessary for the seminary. So, asking, the priests at the parish if you know, if they would be willing to help out with the parish would be willing to help out to acquire a cassock for them, or help acquire getting a set of breviaries or whatnot. So, like I said, in recently, that's usually what has been happening. Like the parish will step up and assist in acquiring, helping the seminarian acquire some of his the items that are needed.
And if someone listening to this from wherever, Russia, from anywhere in the world, wants to contribute to any seminarian or a specific seminarian, do they go to cmri.com.org, cmri.org, I think it is. What's the way they can do that, or do they contact you? How do they properly support a seminary? Because again, I mean, this is something that I think we obviously take for granted. There are so many things that are needed for of course, for a priest, I mean, for a deacon, for a subdeacon, but as seminarians go through, I mean, they literally need, food and clothing. I mean, they're not making money. They're studying to be priests to hopefully, God willing, service the people. And I think that this is something again that I can tell you for myself. I've often forgotten. I forget, regularly that wow, we need to support this because if we don't, who will? How are the seminarians going to eat? How are they going to extend their building to have another classroom, as maybe we'll talk about in a bit, and how are they going to build, more bedrooms so that they're not, bunking up four in one room. I mean, how do people do that? Again, is it just over the website or what's the best way?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just donating to the seminary in general is
Hmm.
a good means because, um, the bishop, he will, um, if the families of these seminarians are able to help out in any way, by all means, they do. But a lot of times, they may not be able to, and so the seminary will support and will help to provide, obviously, um, food and shelter, etc. But we do have, I'm sure people are familiar with our website, materdeiseminary.org, and there's a donate page on the website that people can go to, and if they would like it to go to a specific seminarian or for a specific cause, they can put a note on their donation saying, I'd like to help, so and so, or I'd like to help towards this cause. Just then they can put that note in their donation and can make sure that gets um, to the proper channel, to where it needs to get to.
And Father, non-specifically, obviously per seminarian, but I mean, if you're looking at the seminary in general, what do you think is in need of support? I know we were talking about before the show about how you might try to extend the building you're currently in order to literally have two classrooms. I mean, again, this is kind of it's kind of amazing. You have 16 seminarians, you had 5 priests ordained in May, and clearly you're in need of more space. So I think that seems fairly obvious that would be a big need for people to contribute to.
Yeah, the bishop has mentioned the kind of the a project that he wants to get done is just to add another classroom on the property. So right now we have one main classroom, but when we have classes going on, two different levels going on at the same time. So we have to go into the seminary, and one of the priests teaches there while the other priest teaches in the classroom. So the bishop does want to add another classroom, kind of extend the chapel and classroom building that we have present. And we have like a concrete pad out there, and he just kind of wants to extend off of that concrete pad that we have next to our current chapel and classroom.
Got it. Well, if anyone wants to contribute, there's obviously a good cause. I mean, again, any little dime helps. I think that's something that we've learned. I mean, in today's society, we see how consumeristic the world is, and how people how companies become huge because, well, they get $5 from a million people, and well, that ends up being pretty good, per month. And so I think it's one of those things that I think we overthink these things sometimes. We think, okay, I have to contribute $10,000. I say, no, I don't think that's it. I mean, if it's $10 a month, then it's $10 a month, or 100, or whatever you can contribute. And I think that it's again, this is for the future of our faith, and for our children. I mean, who's going to teach our children and give them the sacraments if not the upcoming seminarians? So definitely contribute to that, and to giving them, another classroom, and hopefully more space so that they don't have to be don't have to be bunking up too much together. Now, Father, I also want to talk about the sisters, and I don't know how many details you have about that. It's not exactly your realm, I suppose, but how many do you know? How many CMD sisters? Again, the CMD being the sisters with the black veils, CMRI with the blue veils. Father, how many CMD sisters are there? Do you know?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe they have 38 sisters, and now they have two novices. So they're currently in their year of formation, the year of silence. So two novices, but overall 38 sisters in the congregation of the Mother of God, which CMD sisters. Yeah.
And big news being that they extended to now 2 countries, right, for the first time.
So to Canada, yeah. So
Exactly. So now
they're
they're in two
in the
countries,
United
right?
States and in Canada, right? So they've actually expanded this past year. This school year is the first um, year in session in three different places. So we have, as you mentioned, in Canada, they have a school up there at Father Saunders Parish, Our Lady of Victory. So they were able to acquire a very beautiful school building up there.
Did they get it? I never heard from
Yeah,
Father Saunders.
yeah,
I did a show with him to try to raise money. I didn't hear if he ever got it. Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah,
Beautiful place. I saw the pictures. I really wonderful.
absolutely. So I believe they
Great.
have, just starting off. I spoke with Sister. She said they have like 38 students already. Just they're in their first year, but 38 up there in Canada. So, and like I said, nice school building
Wow.
and convent. So besides that, they also opened up a school there um, in Arkansas at Father Gackles Parish in Mountain View, so Sacred Heart. Um, and they also opened up a school down in Alabama at Father Troff's Parish. There outside of Huntsville, Alabama. So um, they're outside of Huntsville. They're I think it's called Hazel Green or Green Hazel, the little city town that that school is in. But yeah, so it's three new schools just that just started this August. So this past August.
Well, and I know, Father, we've talked about that before, how the the CMD sisters, when you and I were in school, I believe there were 9 of them, or maybe 11, 12, not many more than 10. And now you have 38. And I think we both would definitely say, and I think the bishop as well would attribute that to the Catholic schools. I mean, a lot of these vocations come from the schools, and from many of them were these teeny tiny schools with, maybe 2 sisters, or 2 sisters and a priest that came in every once in a while. It's just incredible, these stories of how these schools kind of, I don't know, maintained, and how they persevered. And then from that, you had more vocations, which then of course allowed you to form more schools. And it's been kind of a 50-year project, I suppose. I mean, I think you can probably honestly say that. I mean, around that at least. I mean, since the 1970s or 80s, really. And it took a while to bear fruit, but now it's just blooming. You just see this almost explosion, and you've seen that, the explosion also in New Faithful. You've seen it with schools. You've seen it with vocations, and I guess it's just a lot of that's just the hard work and the perseverance of a few. I mean, would you say that too?
Yeah, and the thing is that especially with the with this particular congregation of sisters, the bishop had always mentioned, these sisters don't have a website. They do have a newsletter they put out, but they don't have a website. And he said the best advertisement is going to be you living your religious vocation. That's what's going to attract vocations to your congregation. Just being inspiring and being, you know, living your religious vocation, and that's what's going to attract um, other people to come and want to be a part of that. So that's been, like I said, a major part of that is just the aspect of them living their vocations. The Catholic education has a huge influence on this because, as you mentioned, a lot of the vocations for this particular congregation, they've they've had their vocations from a lot of their students that they had in school. And I think of myself in particular. Just I know that having come out um, to Catholic school, run under the bishop there in Omaha, just how for myself that played a major role in my vocation. So you're seeing that, I see it personally in my own life, and you're seeing that also in a lot of these other vocations too, but in particular for the CMD sisters. So that's pretty encouraging, I think, for them just to see that obviously their efforts are are bearing fruit.
Well, and not even just in religious vocations too, right, Father? I mean, also in Catholic marriages. Obviously, that's obviously a huge
Mhm.
part of how we build Catholic society as well. Maybe the biggest, and that's
Absolutely.
something that we absolutely see, and it's something that, of course, again comes from the ability to have a proper arena for young men and women to be together, and if that's through schooling or through after church events, or whatever it is. And it's something that, again, it's come with time. It's come with struggle, I suppose. And and now we get to see the fruits of it. And I think that's something that I've seen several people lately that I know personally that have moved in order to be close to a Catholic school. And it's something, Father, that I live in Germany where we're not allowed to homeschool, and we're practically not allowed to have a Catholic school. I can't exactly say that, but it's very hard. And that's tough. And so I understand anyone out there who's going through the same issues. It's a heartbreaking issue, and it's something that it weighs heavily on us for sure. But I think that, if I would give advice to anyone out there who's considering, okay, what's the most important thing for my children and for my family, at least consider, really, really think about sending your kids to a Catholic school if you can. Now, I understand not everyone can move across the country and go to Omaha or Cincinnati or wherever else they have a good Catholic school, but I'd consider it. Would you agree, Father?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's something that in our day and age, there's just a lot of dangers and a lot of I think moral pitfalls for our young people that it's just it takes a lot of vigilance and a lot of effort on the part of parents to keep their children on the right path and to keep them from the influences of the world that obviously goes so contrary to the maxims of Christ and the church. So I definitely, if it's a possibility, would encourage parents to make that step if they're able to. And obviously, as you mentioned, not everyone is able. Every situation is different, but for those who are considering it as a possibility, they'd say go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same for people who are not, obviously, not near a parish, not near a priest. I mean, it's something that, again, it's not something that we understand not everyone can. You can't just pick up and move all the time, but it's something that, what's more important than a Catholic education and being near the sacraments? I mean, really nothing. I mean, you have to be able to support your family and to be able to make a living, etc. But the most important thing is to be able to get to heaven and bring your family to heaven as well. And of course, that is going to be immensely aided by a Catholic education in a Catholic parish, that, well, where you can be around people who have similar mentality as you, right, Father? And the people who think the same as you and who think, hey, the biggest thing is to get to heaven, and it's not, watching TV shows or whatever it is. And I think that's it's something, again, that you and I both got to experience in Omaha. We got to live in a little bit of an oasis, away from the world, and it benefited me greatly. I know you as well, and that you got to see what the world should be, how we should live. You got to see, you had to have mass every morning. You got to be friends with the religious, and that's an amazing thing. And if you can get children to be able to spend time with nuns and to be able to look up to them, and to, to honor them, and priests as well, there's no replacement for it, Father. There's just not. And so anyone out there, please, if you can, support the priests, support the sisters as much as you can, and definitely think about, if you can, moving somewhere where you can be part of these parishes, because they're beautiful, and they're just getting to be more and more, as we see. Maybe right now, maybe, and don't, if you're, let's say you're in Texas, and I know Texas has some Catholics, but not a lot of parishes. Let's say you're in northern Texas somewhere, or wherever, and you have a couple families, and you're really, really wanting something. Don't give up. I mean, really keep the faith, keep working towards, having something, that maybe keep begging a priest, call a priest every day, or whatever it is you got to do. And eventually, eventually, if you get enough people, maybe you'll get a school too, as we see now in Canada and Alabama and Arkansas. I mean, these places didn't have a school until this year. So I think it's a hope for so many different, I don't want to say mission parishes, but I think they were missions. Arkansas, I know, was mission for years, decades, right? And then slowly, because it grew to be enough, then you got to be. It wasn't a mission; you had your own priest, and then a couple more years, and then it's a school, and I think that's so hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, I mean, as you said, supporting, I think that first and foremost, I wanted to mention this earlier, it's just how very important it is that you the faithful, keep us in your prayers first and foremost. I think that that's the number one way that you can help support us, is by your prayers. Obviously, that there's um, a lot going on, and we know that a lot going on in our society, in the world about us, and we're trying to preserve our Catholic faith, um, and I think that prayers are such an important aspect of that work, and especially for vocations, as we read in Scripture, "Pray ye the Lord of the harvest that He sent laborers into the field, into the harvest." And we obviously know there's a great need for vocations, both priestly and religious, and we should support this work, like I said, first and foremost by our prayers and our sacrifices, and know that that is greatly appreciated. And obviously, if someone's in a position to help financially, please know that that is greatly appreciated as well. But um, regardless, we keep our benefactors in our prayers, and in our good works, and we have special masses offered every month here at the seminary, for our seminary benefactors, and that, like I said, would include anyone who keeps the success of our seminary in your prayers. So I'd like to encourage everyone to please, like I said, pray for us, and pray for, um, for us here at the seminary, for our convents and our parishes and our schools around the country.
Perfect. Father, last question. If someone watching this anywhere in the world, Brazil, Poland, America, what's the best way if they think, I don't know, maybe I have a vocation, or maybe perhaps they think I'm really sure I have a vocation, but I don't know what to do. What do you think? What should they do? How do they? What's the first step for that? Because I know the first step is typically the hardest, right? I mean, it's like I have this feeling. I think maybe I should be a priest or a sister or a brother. What is that first step that they should approach?
I think first and foremost, if someone has a desire, or think that they may be called to the priestly religious life, talk to your priest. Go to your spiritual director, your confessor, and discuss it with him. Um, and I think that he will be able to obviously give you guidance, and help you discern. But after that, obviously, prayer. Even reaching out. If there's a particular seminary, a particular convent that attracts you, reach out to their vocations director, or reach out to them, and they can also give you some general information about the particular seminary life at the seminary, or life at the convent, etc., and kind of give you an idea of what life would is, and would be like for you there. And but like I said, talking to your priest, and praying for God to enlighten your mind, and to help you um, make the right decision. And I know for myself, um, the bishop had mentioned something to me that always made I always remembered. He said, always be open and disposed to doing God's will. Whatever God's will is on your part, just always have the desire to do His will. And I uh, it had made a big impression on me, and I always remember that, especially when I was trying to discern my own vocations. I was like, okay, I want to do God's will, and what is God's will for me? And that's something that I prayed for, that God show me, and enlighten me. So
Perfect. Father, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I know we'll have you on again sometime fairly soon, hopefully, to do I don't know, podcast about something. You know how it is over here. We don't tend to have plans until the day before the podcast, but we'll do our best. We really appreciate you coming on, Father, and we appreciate you sharing the information about what's going on in Iowa, Omaha, and really around the CMD and CMRI. Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to Father, email me first, kevin89davis@gmail.com. I will forward your message to Father. You can also, I think, contact him. What's your website again, Father?
materdeiseminary.org. So
You can
Mater Dei.
contact. Sorry, Father. You can contact Father there, or again, if you want to email Father personally, you can send it to me. You don't have to send your message to me, obviously, But you can say, hey, I'd like to contact Father Borja, and then I will forward your contact details to Father. And then, of course, when Father has time or desire, I suppose, to answer, depending on the question, I suppose Father will do his best. Of course, he is a busy guy, but I know he'll do his best to respond. But it's just good to I can kind of filter a bit through. Father doesn't have time to deal with all of the YouTube spam emails. So send it to me, kevin89davis@gmail.com, and I will try to get you in contact with Father if it's an appropriate question, remark, etc. If you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Again, you can also comment on this video if you have a question for Father. I'll do my best to also share that with him and get an answer from him as well. Again, if it is of appropriate seriousness, etc. And please, again, yes, of course, pray for Father, for all of the priests, sisters, brothers, bishops around the world, and support them as best you can. Father, God bless you. Till next time.
I also too. Thank you, Kevin.